Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis, joined as always by my co-host Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. Together, we are the Bills guys. This is the Air Raid Hour presented by the Cover One Sports Network. And boy, we've just been lucky this year. Perfect timing of most of our shows. Had the Monday show when the tampering period opens, have the Thursday show, the first night of the draft, and now here we are 1 hour post schedule release. And I sent out a tweet earlier. It was a gif of that one character from Schitt's Creek having a panic attack. I'm like, man, the NFL schedule is released 1 hour before our show. I can't have a panic attack. I don't have any show notes prepared. So this is truly going to be sort of an off the cuff show as we break down the Buffalo Bills schedule. If you're watching this on YouTube, the bottom ticker has the entire Buffalo Bills schedule from start to finish. We're going to walk through the whole thing. You're going to get our thoughts on it. And you guys are going to get a chance to share your thoughts on it in the comment section as well. I'm going to start with the highlights here. 8 primetime-ish games for the Bills. The big one, week 1, Von Miller returns to LA as they get to sort of hoist their Super Bowl banner in front of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Week 1 at the Los Angeles Rams. Week 2, Titans, Monday Night Football. Week 6 is at the Chiefs. That's a 4:25 CBS game, but I think it's important to note that was CBS's one protected game this season. Every year, CBS and Fox gets to pick one singular game that they get to protect from NBC, from Amazon, from ESPN. They chose Bills Chiefs. That will be week 6 at 4:25. Week 8, coming out of the bye week, they have Sunday Night Football at home against the Packers. Week 12, the earliest of Thanksgiving games at 12:30 against the Lions. Week 13 at the Patriots. So no 10-day break after Thanksgiving. You got the Patriots on Amazon in New England. Week 13 at the Bears on Christmas Eve. That game will be on CBS. And then at the Bengals, week 17, Monday Night Football. So 8 primetime-ish games, 2 home, 6 away. Dave, I'm going to cede the microphone to you. What's one adjective that you have to sort of describe your thoughts on the schedule as you see it and describe why you chose that adjective?
Adjective. Let's see. Unsurprising, I guess, is the word I would use, because it captures all of my emotions, I guess, in kind of how I view the primetime-ish games. It's not surprising to me that the Bills got so many primetime games. And I was talking to Kendall about this on Monday, and I had a feeling this was going to happen. I thought it was going to be 5. Truly there's 6 plus the, obviously the opportunity for the 2-ish more. I said, look, we're going to get primetime games, but I guarantee you most of them are going to be on the road. And look what happens. Like, we only get 2 of those at home. Obviously we get the Titans and the Packers at home, but I love the primetime, but I also feel like the Bills often, even in the recent years where they've had more primetime games, I'd love to see the stats on this. Haven't had a chance to go back the last 3 or so years, but it certainly seems like it's been skewed more towards road games for the Bills when they're on primetime. So unsurprising.
I mean, the numbers play that out there. 2 home games, 6 away of your primetime-ish games. Now, I think it does just so happen that I think a lot of our biggest marquee opponents happen to be on the road this year. I think maybe that's some of that plays into it. But the only 2 games, really, the only 2 big games, Monday Night Football versus the Titans and Sunday Night Football against the Packers in week 8. My word was surreal. And the reason why I chose surreal is because it still shocks me. I mean, even 3 years into this whole 4 years into this Josh Allen experience and having a franchise quarterback and having one of the best rosters in football, it's still an absolute surreal experience to see your team tied with like 9 other teams, but tied for the most primetime games. You could tell that there's not a lot of parity in the NFL this year because like the Lions got 0, 2 New York teams got 1 primetime game, the Jets and the Giants. And then you had the Bills up there with a ton of other teams that got the max amount, which is 5. But really in actuality, like I said, it's 8 because you have that Chiefs game in the 425 window. You have the Lions on Thanksgiving. You have the Bears on Christmas Eve. So they were getting the benefit of the doubt in some of those other windows as well. But it's still just absolutely surreal to me and all week, right? All the signs were pointing to Rams, Bills, home, season opener, not home opener, season opener. And the whole week, I was buying into it. It made total sense, but it's still in the back of my mind. I was thinking, no, it's just going to be Rams 49ers. It's just going to be Rams Niners. Like, it's just going to be a game. They're going to pick the Niners. The Bills won't be on the biggest stage of the National Football League, the season kickoff. Like, that's just not something that the Buffalo Bills do. So pretty crazy to see the Bills play the Rams week 1. So I'm going to go with surreal. And I want to get you guys
that.
in the comment section. I want to know what you guys want to say in the comment section. We got Spin coming in saying he doesn't consider Saturday prime time. Chewy Baca coming in saying there's only one New York team. My apologies for that. So what PJ comes in and says, argue the Bills play better on the road on prime time than they do at home. So
there's some truth to that.
And it's also cool, right? Like, so on one hand, it's really cool to see your home crowd on national TV. It's cool to see the Ralph, sort of represented and the loud crowd and all that stuff on prime time. But at the same time, it's also cool to and again, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. So I can't speak too much. So maybe I'm speaking for people I shouldn't be speaking for, but it's kind of cool to just sit at home on your couch and watch, the Bills with all the primetime graphics, with the primetime announcers, on the world stage. It's cool to just be able to sit at home and watch that and sort of take that in, soak that in, as opposed to maybe being there. But who knows? I know maybe I shouldn't be speaking for people who are in the stadium.
I get that. And I think that, we've come a long way from waiting to see which Thursday night game we were going to get as our only primetime game, right? Like when, several years ago, when it's okay, every team had to have one primetime game minimum, and it was always Bills Jets on Thursday night or Bills Dolphins on Thursday night. And John says, don't think of primetime, think national game. And I think that's a good point, right? That Chiefs game that's at 425 in week 6 is a great example of that. And that's going to have a lot of eyeballs on it. It's obviously going to be Nance and Romo calling that game, and it's going to have a lot of eyes on it. And that 425, that 425 slot is quite a nice thing there too for the national aspect, right, of it that John's saying. So I do with that. Jason here says going to be hard on the players. Schedule is all over the place.
Yeah.
But on that note, I will say we did get a gift with the big travel coming in week 1.
Yeah.
And that kind of being over with, and then being able to come back home and get another extra day of rest before the Monday night game against Tennessee. So that's a huge gift for the Bills, I think.
Los Angeles is the only West Coast team on our schedule. The furthest west we go after that is Kansas City. So you get an entire, 40 days of training camp to prepare for the Rams. You can travel whenever you want. So you can leave a little bit earlier to adjust if you feel like you need to, with that West Coast time change, et cetera. And then you're in LA, you deal with LA, you deal with all of that, you get it over with. And then you have 11 days until the Tennessee Titans to prepare for the Tennessee Titans. So to me, I know that I was speaking to a ton of people, fans of Buffalo, the head of the LA Bills backers chapter, they did not want this game because it's going to be very tough for them. I know a lot of Los Angeles people, a lot of California people, a lot of West Coast people that wanted to go to this game. They're disappointed now because number one, the tickets are going to be super expensive.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be raising the banner, giving away the rings. It's the first game. It's on a Thursday night, so it's harder to take off of work, all those different things. So there are a lot of disappointed fans, and I understand that. But from a team perspective, this is the best thing that could have happened for the Buffalo Bills. You get that West Coast game out of the way. You get 11 days to prepare for your next team, and then you just go, and your season takes off. But as Jason says, going to be hard. It's Thursday night, then you get that 11 days, and it's Monday night. Then it's road again. Miami, Baltimore, then it's home versus Pittsburgh, then it's 425 Kansas City and a bye. So it's really not, teams are rather difficult, but the schedule's not too crazy the first 7 or so weeks. I'm looking for when it starts to get a little nuts. It starts to get nuts here. Week 11, we play the Cleveland Browns at 1 p.m. Then at Detroit 4 days later on Thanksgiving, Then the Bills are going to want to take the next day, let their players enjoy their Thanksgiving with their families, eat dinner, stuff themselves with turkeys, etc. But then they got to get ready 7 days, not 10 days later, 7 days later, they have to play the New England Patriots in New England. So 2 consecutive road games on those Thursdays. Then they get a little bit of rest for the Jets and the Dolphins. Then it's the Bears on Christmas Eve. It's the Bengals on Monday Night Football. So it's really that week 11 to 13 that scares me the most. The rest of it, I think, is relatively manageable. But the ats on the schedule look overwhelming because we have 8 road games this year, and we have, or I'm sorry, 9 road games this year, and we have 8 home games. Last year, it looked overwhelming the other way. It looked like we had more because we did home games, but that extra game literally on the schedule with those little symbols, it really plays like a trick on you, a mind trick on you. It's just one more game, but it makes the ats, the aways, seem really overwhelming when you're looking at the schedule there. So next question or next topic, sort of, what game are you most excited for? And people in the comment section, let us know, what is the game that you guys are most excited for? Let's say outside of the home opener. So let's let that, we sort of talked about that a little bit, how surreal it is, how it's good for the schedule. Outside of just being sort of the poster child for the National Football League, Josh Allen was centerfold on a ton of graphics today that were released by the NFL. Other than the Rams game, what game are you most excited for this season?
I mean, well, it's hard not to sit there and look at week 6 at Chiefs at 425 and say, and not get excited about that, right? I mean, the Bills are, with Josh Allen 1-3 against the Chiefs. We only had one of those games at home. 2 of those games are playoff losses on the road. Obviously, they beat the Chiefs in the regular season on the road last year, but it's going to be another good early slugfest with the Chiefs this year, like it was last year on the road. And so that game is hard to not get excited about. But for me, just personally, right, with the family, from the family aspect, right, my entire wife's side of the family are all Packers fans, right? They're from Wisconsin. They're big time Packers fans. They're stockholders, the whole thing, right? So that game, we know the Bills only play the Packers once every 4 years. That game being a home game for the Bills, being one of their only 2 home primetime games, that game's going to be exciting to me, especially because we'll be coming off the bye, hopefully coming off of a big win against Kansas City the week before the bye, and then sandwiching like the Chiefs and Packers around that bye week is really kind of cool. So for me personally, getting to see the Packers on the schedule at home and in prime time, that's a rarity, right? Like, to get one, you don't play the Packers that often, and then 2, you get to play them at home in prime time. You get to go up against Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. So, outside of the obvious, the Chiefs, like that Packers game, that means something to me. That one's going to be fun.
Axon Jackson comes in with a really great statistic. I hadn't seen this yet, so thank you for sharing. He says the best net rest differential relative to opponents in the 2020 regular season, the Bills are plus 13 days, the Lions are plus 11 days, Broncos plus 9. The worst are the Packers at minus 13 days, the Texans at minus 10, and the Patriots at minus 10. So the Bills, a ton of rest. And honestly, like, not a lot of travel on the schedule, a lot of East Coast games this year. So it's the AFC North, the NFC North. So that makes sense. There's not as much, airline miles that the Bills are going to be racking up this year. I'll tell you what, like, obviously you got that sentimental value for the Packers. It's Rodgers versus Allen. One of those two is going to be looking for some redemption from the match that's going to be played in a couple of weeks here.
True.
One of those guys is going to lose, and one of the other guys is going to be looking for some but at the end of the day, I'm a petty son of a bitch. Like, I really am. So I got 2 games circled. I got 2 games, and the Chiefs is really the most important one because you want to win the division, right? Like, you want to have that number 1
I have a
seed,
feeling I know where this is going.
Week 5, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Week 2, Tennessee Titans. I need to shut those fans up.
Yep.
We lost in an embarrassing fashion. Week 1, we laid an egg to the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. I need the redemp. I need us to go in there. I need us at home again to show them who's boss, to smack them in the mouth. I need that. And I need week 2. I need us to redemp that 1 yard short. I need us to that redemption on Monday Night Football, which we played them on Monday Night Football last year. Coincidence again. This time it's at home. I need that redemption against the Tennessee Titans. I need it.
Can I say I almost would rather win the Titans game than the Chiefs game? It's that. Like, I hate.
I mean, salty.
I don't
salty.
like the Chiefs either, but, like, the Titans
Mhm,
just really rub me the wrong way. Like, they really do. I hate
mhm,
Vrabel. I just they get, like, this unwarranted, like, praise for
mhm.
last year being, like, overcoming the COVID stuff. Like, they're the ones that caused all that shit, right? And then, like, we have to constantly see the stiff arm on Josh Norman, and we have to, oh my
Mhm.
god, it's just annoying. The Chiefs are annoying in their own right, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but Andy Reid's generally likable, right? And, like, but
Patrick
but
Mahomes
man,
is other than his family, which I'm not gonna get
yeah,
into, he's
right,
generally
but
likable. There was
The
a
Titans are not
a
likable.
people.com article, People Magazine article today that I retweeted from our account. Josh Allen talked about how great his friendship is with Patrick Mahomes because they're about to be doing
Yeah,
that match together. So I
yeah, I
think Pat
mean,
Mahomes is going to be a lot more likable to Bills fans after June 1st when I think they see some of the camaraderie between him and Allen. That should be interesting. Your boy Lettuce comes in here, says excited for Miami come back here in December. Always excited for Miami to come here in December, especially after watching Tua throw that ball to
God.
Tyreek.
Was that real where they
That
actually
was
had a
real.
job posting for a video
Yes, I was
producer?
just about to mention that. So, for those of you who aren't like on social media on Twitter, the Miami Dolphins posted a video of Tua throwing a deep finger quotes bomb to Tyreek Hill. And what was laughable about it was that he like put his whole body into it. He launched it in the air and it looked like a punt. It wasn't a good spiral. It wobbled. Tyreek Hill had to run back to it. It almost looked like he was fielding a punt. It was an awful throw and they were trying to play it off as like this great new connection between Tyreek and Tua. Look at Tua's arm, et cetera, et cetera. It was just hilarious. The internet ripped it apart. And then today, a day after that video was posted, the Miami Dolphins literally on like Indeed.com or LinkedIn or something had a job posting for a videographer or video producer. And the joke is that that video got somebody's ass fired. So, um, that was pretty. John Marlowe says that was the best 20-yard bomb he's ever seen.
I mean,
uh,
they had to know, right, that
mhm.
was gonna get picked apart. No, like, I mean, come on. Like, you had to know people were gonna be all over that, so just really funny. I mean, the
Looking,
memes, the edits, I mean,
yeah,
they were so good.
looking at the schedule, is there any one game that you're most disappointed in? The time slot, the fact that it's not prime time, et cetera. Like, is there any game that you are most disappointed in? It could be for any reason.
Um, Most disappointing I mean, I would say, like, not really, honestly. Like, I mean,
I
there's
got
nothing
one.
that really stands out because we know the home and away
Mhm.
situations. We knew the home and away situations ahead of time.
Yeah,
So I would say, like, I don't know, maybe, like, um, having to go on the road to play the Pats on the Thursday night, like, maybe
that's the
that's kind of
one.
annoying. Like,
That's the one that
that
rubs me the wrong way, and it's not the fact
yeah,
that it's Thursday night at the Pats, it's the situation of it all, and I get it, like, the ESPN analytics about how the Bills have the most rest compared to their opponents, and the fact that we don't have to travel a lot of air miles this year. 4 days rest to play the Lions on Thanksgiving, and then only 7 days to get prepared for the New England Patriots. Like I said, they're going to want to
on
on
the road
Friday, like
too.
enjoy their family and all these things. And you got them giving 4 days rest and then 7 days rest when really you could have given them 10 days rest. You could have given them time to enjoy their family since they're missing Thanksgiving and then let them rest and reset and get ready. I'm a little disappointed in the back to back Thursdays when we have to have that 4 day rest to go play the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. So that's the only thing that I really look at the schedule, and I'm just super disappointed in. I think the NFL schedule makers did us a little dirty there, but other than that, can't really complain because I mean New England plays on Sunday that week, right? So they only get 4 days rest,
Right.
or they only get 4 days of preparation, I guess I should say. So I guess it all evens out in the end. So now that I've just talked through it, I'm
Plus
not mad about it.
Well, plus after that New England game, the Bills get 2 straight
Mm.
home game right, like, they get 2 straight home division
Against the
games against the
division, yeah,
Jets and Dolphins, so
with
there's a
10 days
little bit
rest.
of
Yeah.
there's a little bit of reprieve there to get that 10 days rest and then be at home against the Jets, so, that's not too bad.
I'm a big fan of what G Long Video Guy and a couple other people have said this in the comment section. I would like to, and this has always been my thing. I would like to see the NFL go to 18 games, which is another game on top of what they're already playing, and I would like to see them go to 3 bye weeks. 18 games, 3 bye weeks. It's a 21-week season. I think that you can get the players more rest because I mean the damage that these guys do and the carnage to these guys' bodies year after year after year, week after week is absolutely insane. 3 bye weeks, 18 weeks. You can chunk it like 6, 6, and 6. And fans of teams like the Bills can watch some other teams play football, like there are 3 weeks where we can watch other teams play football. Other fans can do similar things. I would like to see the NFL eventually go to 18-3. 17 games and 1 bye week is just that's brutal.
I'm gonna go.
Brutal.
I'll take it the other way. I'll say go back to 16 games, have an 18-week schedule like they do now, and
Mhm.
have 2 bye weeks. I
Yeah.
think I think like I'm personally don't like the 17 games. You always have a different number of home and away games. I don't like that. I just like I like the idea of having an even number of games. I would prefer 18 over 17 if it was going to go that way, but I actually really
Mhm.
thought the 16 game schedule was perfect. But if you want to give these guys an extra week of rest, keep this 18-week schedule that you've now set up and just add an extra bye week for each team. That would be my suggestion, but it's obviously not going to happen because
Mhm.
they want the dough. So,
All right. So our next question is going to be, what do you think the best road trip is for Bills Mafia this year? And before we get into that topic and what you guys maybe tell us what road game you're planning on going to, maybe tell us what road game you wish you could go to. Maybe you don't have the means to get there, etc. But just tell us what road game you think is the best road trip game this season. And before we get into this topic, Greg and Aaron, Cover One Buffalo podcast, they're going to be putting out a special episode tonight. Bookseats.com is their premier sponsor. They're obviously going to be helping you travel all across the country for Bills games this year. Bookseats.com will have a ton of packages, whether it's airlines, hotels, etc., tickets, etc. So Aaron and Greg are going to have a special episode tonight. It won't be live; it'll be on tape delay, so you can watch it after this show. It'll probably be up and posted by then, and it'll be presented by Bookseats.com. Because of our next topic here, what do you think is going to be the best Buffalo Bills road trip this season? I already like this one coming in Detroit, right down the road on Thanksgiving Day.
it I mean, it's interesting. Like I really like the Chicago road trip potentially, but it is on Christmas Eve, so I think that's going to be tough probably for people
Mhm.
during the holiday season to kind of go on that road trip. But I do think the idea of going to an NFC team, maybe like maybe not necessarily less pressure, but like you get to see some players that you wouldn't normally have seen, and you get to go to Chicago. That's cool to me. Obviously, LA week one seems like a no brainer, but like honestly, like I kind of like early in the season, early October, maybe going to Baltimore is kind of a cool road trip. Getting to see like the Bills play against Lamar Jackson, still on the East Coast and early enough in the season to where
Mhm.
early October in Baltimore should be pretty nice weather. And then the obvious one, right, is the Chiefs in mid-October. I think the weather should be really nice at that time of year. Um, People are going to sit there and say like, well, what about the Bengals on January 2nd? Like, I'm not really like I'm not really
Listen,
like digging traveling the
uh,
day after New Year's Day.
no,
So
well,
like,
no.
so I
So
don't
so
know.
Douglas comes in here like how people use so I'm gonna get myself into some trouble here because like you know being from Buffalo, obviously we know we have that chip on our shoulder, that Rust Belt city. Anytime someone disparaged the city of Buffalo, we would get super up in arms about it. Every time someone would say Buffalo was born, we get super up in arms about it. I mean, Marshawn Lynch had to do an ESPN video where he was getting crunk in Applebee's in order to appease this fan base. Um, Man, New Year's Eve in Cincinnati, downtown Cincinnati sounds like it'll be bumping, right? Like
Yes.
uh cold Cincinnati on New Year, like that game does not move the meter for me. I understand it will for some because it's relatively close and all that stuff, but just just not moving the meter for me. For me, week 3 at Miami, I think it'll
Yep.
be really interesting. uh, a lot of these cities, right? Like a lot of these cities are sort of rehashed. Last couple of years, pre-pandemic, we had that game in LA before they built the new stadium. A bunch of Bills fans went to it. It was awesome. Miami, Bills fans go every year. Kansas City has been a destination for Bills fans the last couple of years. Obviously New England, etc. So there are some new teams. I think Chicago's the marquee new team. LA with that new stadium. Because LA is going to get tougher to get to, the ticket's going to be more expensive because the timing of it Thursday, it's going to be tougher to get to. I'm not gonna go with LA. I'm gonna go with Miami because the
Yeah.
Bills are coming off that extended rest, right? That 11-day,
Mhm.
or I'm sorry, that rest. You know, they got the Titans. They're resetting. They're going on the road to Miami. So I'm gonna go with that game against the Dolphins there. That's me. That would be my go-to game if I could afford to travel, but I will not be traveling to any games this year. I'm just gonna wait until February, whatever. February what, 12th? What was it this year? When they're
Let's
playing
see.
right down the street from me in Glendale. I'm gonna try to
Okay.
sneak in. I'm gonna try to sneak in because I obviously can't afford $6,000 tickets, but
February 12th. Yeah.
I'll watch from Bar Louie outside of the stadium.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll just wait till they get to Phoenix. So yeah, no game in Nashville this year. So sorry, Bills fans. I don't think it's a good a travel year as it has been in years previous. I don't think there's as many destination cities. I mean, it's Los Angeles, Miami, Baltimore, Kansas City, the Jets, the Lions, the
Chicago
Patriots,
and Cincinnati are like on
Chicago,
holiday
Cincinnati, and
weekends.
it's just
Yeah.
miserable there in the winter.
Yep.
Like, yeah, just no real destination cities other than LA and Miami really on the schedule this year. I think I think that's gonna be good weather for that Kansas City game.
Yeah, I do too. Yep.
So I think the Kansas City game would be pretty dope as well. So, but again, that's just sort of recycled. Zen Bills fan says, who's on Judge's sweater? It would be the guy who's responsible for all of our primetime games this year. A mustachioed Josh Allen. Douglas Masters comes in and says, Judge can start digging his secret tunnel to sneak into the Super Bowl now. I have 8 months to Shawshank. I have 8 months to Shawshank it. I got 8 months to Shawshank it.
Yes, you
So
do.
looking forward
Yes, you do.
to that. We got Rantingly coming in saying he lives in LA. His plans to travel for a Bills home playoff game. So save your money. Don't try to go to that game week 1 if you want to afford a playoff ticket. I feel like it's tough, right? Like I feel so bad for those LA Bills fans or even just West Coast Bills fans in general who want to go travel to that game because even though I do think it's best for the Bills, that's rough for the fans, man. You got to have to take Thursday off of work, Friday off of work, depending on how far you're traveling. You might have to take Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off of work. It's tough to get those
Mhm.
many days off of work, depending on what your job is. The tickets are going to be super high because it's week 1. Optimism's at its highest. It's the ring ceremony, all those things. But I will say one thing. If the NFL's plan was to pick the team that was farthest away from Los Angeles as to not embarrass the Rams in their home stadium when there's more fans of an opponent's team than the Rams as they're raising the banner and getting their rings, I think they have sorely misjudged Bills Mafia. No matter what day it is, no matter what time it is, no matter what price that ticket is,
They'll
those
be there.
fans are going to be 60% Bills fans booing the heck out of the Rams as they
It's
raise
gonna be
that
great.
banner and get those rings. It's going to be a beautiful thing to see. NBC is going to have to muffle that volume or pump in some fake applause because Bills Mafia is going to take over that joint. Super pumped about that. So, all right, what we got left here in the topic meter? This year's Jaguars. All right, let's just move to something super depressing. What's this year's like? What's this year's finger quotes? What's this year's finger quotes trap game? Like, I
Mm,
almost I don't even want to say like I guess trap game and Jaguars game could be like two different things because I almost feel like the Jaguars game wasn't a trap game. It was just the Bills just deciding not to show up that day.
mm.
But like in terms of what's a game that everyone looks at on the schedule, doesn't think twice about it, posts an L in their season or a W in their season prediction, and it turns out to maybe be an L. Like what is the game that you got? And people in the comment section, feel free. A lot of Jets. We already
Yeah.
got two. We already got
There
two.
there's 2 that stand out to me, right?
These guys are
And
stealing mine here.
so the one and I'm
Mhm.
looking at a graphic of the schedule, so I can't see what the comment section is saying right now.
Yeah.
So there's 2 to me, and they're both NFC games.
Yeah.
One is Detroit on Thanksgiving,
Yep. That was
the
mine.
early slot on Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
You know, you're coming off playing the Browns, right? The week before at home, obviously, but like you're coming off playing the Browns, which I think is going to be a tough game. You have the short rest going into the Thanksgiving game, and then you have New England the following week on the road. Maybe you're looking ahead a little bit. You know, again, I'm not saying the Bills will. I'm just saying, like, if you think about the psychology behind it, right? Like maybe Detroit on
Mhm.
Thanksgiving is a trap game, and the other one to me is the Bears on Christmas Eve because you're coming off 2 home games, right, in a row against division opponents, and then you're staring that Bengals game in the face on the road on Monday Night Football in Week 17, which could have seeding implications in the AFC. The Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year, so like that's a big game. People want to see Josh Allen against Joe Burrow late in the season. Like I said, could have playoff
Yeah.
seeding implications, and it's prime time. So going to Chicago in December, I don't think is going to be as easy maybe as people think it could be.
And
And
who
so,
knows? Nathan Peterman could be starting by then, so we don't even know. I
well,
can imagine.
this is true. The Lions do not win on Thanksgiving. It's a tradition.
But that's a crazy thing too. So I wanted to say the Lions as well. 4 days rest. You have the Patriots on Thursday Night Football the next week. Dan Campbell's teams always play gritty. Like towards the end of the season when they had nothing to play for, I mean, Dan Campbell was just balls to the
This is
walls,
a
like
good one.
running trick plays, all those different things, and like they were holding up. But the question is like, is Jared Goff even going to be available to play by Thanksgiving, or is he going to be like in an air cast and like in a body cast somewhere? And you look at their depth chart, their backup is still Tim Boyle. Like
Yep.
they didn't draft a guy. I don't even think they got like a quality UDFA. Like I look at that Detroit Lions depth chart, they still don't have a backup quarterback for some forsaken reason. Like Jared Goff's not going to play 17 games next year. So that should be an interesting one. But yeah, the Bears, I can just imagine Bears GM Ryan Poles pregame walking down to that locker room and giving a rousing speech about how the Buffalo Bills stole Ryan Bates from them. Like we could have had Ryan Bates. They'll sign him back.
Ryan Bates revenge game for where he was momentarily with the Bears.
Yeah, the 30 seconds he was at the Bears. Dennis K comes in and says Air Raid Hour needs a Dawson Knox eating wings aviator hat. A couple of thoughts there. Number one, I believe he's referencing the Bills schedule release video, which I haven't seen yet. So let us know what your thoughts are on that. I haven't had a chance to see it compared to, and I haven't had a chance to compare it to other teams. And number two, if we did post that, we'd probably be C&D'd by the Buffalo Bills and the stream would be pulled down. So no, you're not going to see that here. You're probably not going to see that here. But the Jets game, and you're right.
That Steelers game that someone
Steelers
mentioned, it's sandwiched between
but
Baltimore and Kansas City. But the Bills are not going to take the Steelers lightly
after
this
last year.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
I just don't know if after last year you're going to see the Bills. You're going to see the Bills take the Steelers lightly, and a bunch of people coming in saying the Bills.
They're not going to let Money Mitch come in there and beat them, right?
It could be Baby Hands Pickett. We don't know. David W says awkwardly awesome. The Bills release video. JR just said it was awesome. Danton comes in and says it was hilarious. But Daniel Cool says the Chargers video was better, which is disappointing because that they're one of our rivals this year. We can't seed the Chargers an inch this year. That includes our social media team. So if you are the Bills social media team, you need to make sure you're keeping track of what teams like the Chiefs and the Chargers are doing. You can't give them an inch. You can't give them an inch. Everything in this competition for the AFC this year matters. So you got to make sure that you're staying on top of your game. Rantingly says the Bills went full Tim and Eric on their schedules. The Chargers was like an anime thing, wasn't it? Yeah, I think the Chargers were like an anime thing. So very niche. They went very niche, I feel like, because based on the things my students are watching nowadays, anime is probably very popular with a lot of people. But that kind of stuff goes right over my head. So who knows? Yeah, we don't have that LA budget to pay for all that anime, I guess. All right. So let's take a look at the primetime matchups, and let's just go back and circle back to the primetime matchups. So here are the 5 primetime matchups. At Los Angeles to open the season, Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. We got Green Bay Packers at home on Sunday Night Football. You have the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football on Amazon, and you have the Cincinnati Bengals on the road again, Monday Night Football on ESPN. Just in general, like, what are your thoughts on these primetime matchups? Did the NFL hit the nail on the head picking the right teams for them?
I think so. I mean, the Bengals, Bills, that's a great matchup to have on primetime. Obviously, the Rams coming off the Super Bowl. People want to see Von Miller, going back to play against his old team. Josh Allen versus Matthew Stafford in LA. The Titans is obviously, second year in a row being on Monday night. Obviously, I think it's third year in a row playing them in a quote
Mhm.
primetime game, because it was that weird COVID game we had against them. That was like in the afternoon or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly when that was, but there's some bad blood there between the Bills and Titans.
Mhm.
The Packers make sense to me, given that, like I was mentioning before, these teams don't really play each other often. And Allen versus Rodgers, two of the biggest arms in the league. You got to get a Bills Pats primetime game in there. So I think they got it right. I think what I would say is like, um, knocking two of the primetime games out right away in the first 2 weeks of the season. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that, because then, I mean, the rest of the way, they're fairly spread out, right? You have week
Mhm.
8, you have week 13, then you have week 17. And you can count Thanksgiving if you want to as another one, week 12 and 13 back to back. But those two in a row to start the year is what I find really interesting. They really want to get the Bills front and
Mhm.
center on national TV early in the season. I think that's part of because they know the NFL knows how special the Bills are and how fun of a team they are and how great Josh Allen is. And I think as much of as much as the Bills have gained new fans because of Josh Allen, just as far as fans of football and like having fun watching the Bills, getting those two
Mhm.
primetime games early in the season, I think is a smart move by
Yeah.
the NFL to get even more people than watching the Bills the rest of the season. So I mean, I don't really have any qualms with like who they're playing on primetime
Mhm.
and when. I would have just liked to seen it a little bit more evenly balanced home and away. But like you said before, with the opponents didn't really kind of pan out that way, right? Because
Yeah.
like you take a look at it and you say, wait, okay, well, what other home game could you have put on? Maybe Bills Browns could have been
Mhm.
a primetime game
You had no idea if
at
Deshaun's
home,
playing, yeah.
but you don't know. Could you put Bills Steelers on primetime? Maybe, but it's like the NFL
Yeah.
has not shied away from putting the Steelers on primetime, so I'm a little surprised maybe on that one. But
Yeah.
otherwise, there's not a ton there, like you said.
Yeah. I think the biggest shock, as Jessica sort of points out, she's not pointing out that it's a shock, but she's pointing out that there was 3 Thursday games. Maybe she's shocked by it, but a lot of people, I think, were taken back in the comments section early on about the number of Thursday games, and that sort of makes the schedule look very sort of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but just looks like sort of jilted, right? Like, it's just like sort of a weird schedule because there are 3 Thursday games, whether it's the opener, whether it is the Thanksgiving game or the week
Right.
right after that with the Patriots. So it sort of makes it look like a very like uneven, sort of weird type of schedule, something that we're not used to. But I think this is all a good test for the Buffalo Bills, right? Because you know, I think that if you look at this schedule this year and the primetime games, I think it's setting up to thoroughly prepare the Bills to be able to get ready for and have everything thrown at them and be fully prepared when it comes to the postseason. So I think that the primetime schedule, like you said, I don't think it did the Bills dirty. I don't, think it did them, in any sort of negative way. So I think the primetime schedule, I think, worked out perfectly good, and every single matchup makes complete sense for the Buffalo Bills. And I'm also low key happy that it's the first game on Thanksgiving. I like the first game on Thanksgiving. What was it? The
You're
Cowboys
passed
game
out by
was,
like 5 o'clock,
yeah,
right? So
the
the
Cowboys game was
Cowboys was
4.
the middle game.
Yeah, the
That was the
Cowboys game
middle
was the
game.
middle game, and the Saints game was the night game. And on Thanksgiving, I've mentioned this before. I can't eat and watch a Bills game, like, because I get like my stomach just goes so twisted and turned in knots that I feel like I'm gonna vomit. Like, I literally can't have any food in my system while I'm watching the Bills game. So now I can just starve myself, watch the Bills game, and then I can either eat my feelings or I can eat in celebration, depending on the outcome of the football game afterwards. So I think that's a perfect spot in the 12:15 hour for that game. Let's look at the AFC East matchups here now for a little
Yeah.
bit, because this is where I look at it. It's going to be tough, I think, to run the table in the AFC East this year on top of just the teams getting better, right? New England did some things. They're New England. They're pretty much the same team they were last year, had a little bit more speed. The Jets had a really good draft, have added some pieces in free agency. And then Miami is the big one
Mhm.
outside of the question mark at quarterback. They add a lot of speed. They've got a offensive minded coach that, for the most part, looks like he knows what he's doing. So Miami looks to be maybe the biggest threat to the Bills in the AFC East this year. Week 3, we go at Miami on a short week because we played a Monday Night Football the week previous. Then we play the Jets week 9, also on a somewhat short week because we play Sunday Night Football the week
Yep.
before.
At least
But
that's
then
at home, though. Yeah.
and then we get New England on 7 days rest after playing Detroit on 4 days rest with the Thanksgiving holiday all thrown in there. So the first 3 games aren't the most beneficial to us in the AFC East. There is a little bit of sort of adversity the Bills are going to have to overcome for each of those 3 matchups. But then you look at week 14, we get the 10 days rest, home against the Jets, home against the Dolphins. Then we go on the road, and on a short week, the last week of the season, are going to have to play, even though it's at home, the New England Patriots. So another short week because we're playing the week previous on Monday Night Football. So a little bit of adversity there, but the Jets Dolphins after New England on that Thursday night, it's a nice little one. So I guess maybe that makes up for it a little bit. It's not going to be perfect.
I'll be really upset if they do the Bills dirty in week 18 and make them play on Saturday.
After a Monday night game?
Yeah, after they're playing Monday. I can't see that happening, but like you just never know, right? It's interesting, right? You've got the first 2 AFC East games are very spread out. You have week 3, week 9, both on the road. And then you get a very concentrated chunk of your division games at the end of the season. 4 of your last 6 games are division games. And it is nice at least that you do get 3 of those right on at home. So and so for me, having those last 3 division games at home is nice, but like you said, you're going to have to battle through some probably fairly tough games. Your first 3 division games are all on the road, right? That you play on the schedule. So, and under interesting circumstances for each of those road games, right? You've got a short week, like you said, week 3, you've got a somewhat short week 9, and then you've got the quick, I would say, turnaround coming off of the Thanksgiving game. But then again, New England also is going to be coming off even shorter rest for that one, but they're going to be at home. So I would say it's a very unique division schedule this year, because normally what you see is you definitely always have that early game against Miami, but you also usually have an early game against the Jets on the schedule as well. We know we always play New England late in the season. That's kind of been a steady, steady scheduling thing for some time. But having 4 of your last 6 games being division games, I mean, the Bills have it all in front of them, right? And obviously, goal number 1 is winning the division. So, those games could be really important down the stretch.
Yeah, a couple of comments that have come in. Number 1 was, it really stinks that we have to play the Chiefs on the road every year. The one year we had them at home was that weird, messed up COVID thing because of the Titans. So the one chance we had at them at home, it was kind of a rough game. It was like, a Tuesday night or something like that.
Yeah, it was like
really
a 5
bad
p.m. or something weird. Like,
really bad weather. Just gave Joe Buck every excuse to shat on us. So that wasn't the funnest experience in the world. And it's just, sometimes that's the way the schedule works out, because we're not even playing the AFC West this year. Thank goodness. We're just playing the Chiefs because we both happen to come in first place, and that's just the way it is. We're playing the Titans. We're playing the Titans at home.
Thanksgiving is same as Bills, so same
rest.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that too. So, so that's super interesting. And then someone mentioned it's 3 away games and then 3 home games for the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. So that's interesting. So you get the 3 straight, or the 3 consecutive AFC East home games sort of end the year, not consecutive games, but against the opponents, it's 3 away and then 3 home. So all that's super interesting. Someone else said you should not sleep on the Jets this year. Got to be humble and hungry. They are going to be better. And it's, there's no like easy. The biggest difference in the schedule this year, and things change as the season progresses, things change. I just look at the schedule we played last year, and man, it was a rough schedule. Like, we played some really bad football teams. And I look at the schedule this year, and I'm just like, I don't see the same amount of bad football teams on the schedule than we had last year. So it's going to be a tougher, more uphill climb. But at the same time, we got better. And I think that's one of the reasons why Brandon Beane didn't just rest on his laurels this year and sort of bring it back. Remember, last year we just brought it back. We brought it back. We re-signed everybody. We brought it back. This year he's like, no, I'm going to go out. I'm going to get myself Von Miller. I'm going to rebuild that defensive line. I'm going to give Jamison Crowder to Josh Allen. We'll go get James Cook to Josh Allen. I'm going to get a young first round corner who could play more man-to-man matchups, maybe a little bit better than Levi Wallace. Like, I'm going to load up. Like, I'm not going to stay content with the roster I have. I think it's because Brandon Beane saw maybe not the order in which he would play those teams, but the teams he'd be playing the next year. So the Buffalo Bills loaded up for that very reason. All right. So I want to break the season down by quarters, but first I want to take a little peek at some of the announcers, right? We're big on the announcers for some of these games. So I want to take a look at some of the announcers that the Buffalo Bills are going to have week 1 when we start the season in LA, and week 8 when we play on Sunday Football against Green Bay. We're going to have Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth. The week 6 game against Kansas City in the 425 window, and on Thanksgiving against Detroit. The game will be on CBS, so we'll have Tony Romo and Jim Nantz. The week 13 game at New England is going to be on Amazon Prime. My guess is that it will be locally simulcast, probably on Channel 4 or Channel 7. So for those of you who are local and don't have Amazon Prime, I wouldn't worry too much about it. The rest of you, maybe save your Amazon free trial for that week if you don't already have Amazon Prime. But that will be Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. So that'll be an interesting duo in the booth. There are some rumors and rumblings that maybe Pat McAfee could be joining that booth. But there's also some rumors and rumbling that it could be Pat McAfee and Kay Adams on the pregame show. So Pat McAfee and Kay Adams are both in talks with Amazon right now. Their exact roles are not exactly hashed out yet. Then ESPN is where it gets sort of weird, right? Week 17 against the Bengals, it's going to be Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, which is still weird for me to say on ESPN.
It's weird. Yeah, it is.
But the week 2 game is a double header, and the Bills are the first game of the double header. So unlike last year, or unlike every season previous, it was the week 1 Monday night doubleheader. This year, week 1, there's just one Monday night game, and it's 2 Monday night games week 2. So the Bills are the 7:15 game on ESPN. Then at like 8:30, Philly and Minnesota kick off on ABC, because this year ABC is actually going to be taking on some more games. ABC is owned by ESPN. I would assume Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are going to get the ABC game. I would assume they're going to get the later start, the ABC game. That's network television. So my guess is probably the Tennessee game is going to be Steve Levy, Brian Griese, Louis Riddick. How awkward for them, by the way. It's like, by the way, guys, you are not good enough. So we're going to go ahead and hire Joe Buck and Troy Aikman to replace you.
I mean,
but hey,
they could always go back
out
and
of the
do
year, we need you.
Or they go
Mike
do something weird and put, like they used to do, right? For that 10-15 late
passive
game.
aggressively bicker at each other, just Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick going at it. You could put Mike and Mike Golick and Mike Golick Jr. with someone in the booth too. So there's some interesting things they could do. Maybe Mina Kimes in the booth. That'd be interesting. Griese can't do it. Griese can't do it. I forgot. Griese's a quarterback's coach now.
But are you saying that those games are going to overlap and be on at the same time?
Yes, they're going to overlap. So it's not going to be. It's one Eastern time game and it's one Mountain time game. It's not an East Coast game, West Coast game. Those games are going to overlap. So you'll be able to watch the first half of the Bills game, then around halftime turn on the other game, and then turn it back to the Bills game, catch the end of the Bills game, and then turn on the end of the game. So for non-Bills fans, for non-Titans fans, for non-Vikings games, for non-Eagles fans, like it'll be flipping back and forth between whatever game's more interesting, right? So it'll be super interesting. Yeah, maybe it'll just be Louis Riddick and Steve Levy. Maybe they'll throw Mina Kimes in there. Who knows what they'll do? But I doubt we get Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. I think that they'll be the ABC people. Won't be Tom Brady yet. So yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about that deal yet. What are your thoughts on Tom Brady?
I mean, can he just do that now? Like get it, just take the money now, man. Like get out of the NFL. Like okay, you are going to have to retire at some point because you're not going to turn away $350 million to talk about football. So maybe is this his last year? Like, I don't know. I think he came back for spite. I really do. I think he wanted to be the one that leaked his retirement news, and he purely came back for spite. Yeah, purely for spite.
Well, then there's also the rumors that he retired so he can go to the Dolphins, and I kind of believe those things. Like there are some legit reporters who are reporting that he was gonna become what, like a part owner of the Dolphins, have a role in the front office, and also be the head coach. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see which game gets the Manning cast. That'll be interesting. I didn't even think
True.
about that.
Is
Which
that
game
coming
gets the
back
Manning?
again this year?
Yes, it is coming back this year. I think they signed like a 6-year deal.
Oh, nice.
Maybe I'm just racking my brain here. Maybe the Mannings try to juggle both games and do the Manning cast, like, right? Like they
Oh
have both
god.
games up there, like so people can watch both games at the same time and listen to Peyton Manning. So that'll be interesting. I mean, Neil says everyone has ESPN. I think Buck and Aitman get the better matchup. So who knows? I could have been formulating in my head who was going to be the second broadcast crew,
I
all for
mean,
nothing.
Titans
It could be
Bills
Buck
is a
and
better game
matchup
for
than
sure.
Eagles.
Like, I
Yes.
mean, that's a better game.
What do you mean,
But
Kirk Cousins versus Jalen Hurts?
yeah, okay.
Come on,
Well,
dude. It's gonna be a duel. I mean, absolute
for
duel.
the Jalen Hurts truthers, I like Jalen Hurts, but we'll see. That's a playoff
Yeah.
team from a year ago. Hard to believe.
All right. So, final things here as we sort of close it out. We're going to go short tonight because there is going to be that video that Aaron and Greg are dropping. We want you guys to head over and check that video out once they're done recording it, producing it, etc. Let's break down the schedule into parts. I sort of broken it down into 4, 5, 4, and no, I broke it down into 4, 4 because it's weird. You can't do 4, 4, 4, and 4 anymore.
Hmm.
I broke it down 4, 4, 4, 5. So I
Okay.
sort of grouped it that way. The first part of the schedule is at LA, Tennessee, at Miami, at Baltimore. So that would be the first quarter of the season. 3 of the first 4 games of the season are on the road. Thursday night, then Monday night, then 1 p.m. on the road. Just looking at that, LA, Tennessee, Miami, Baltimore. What are your thoughts on this first 4 games of the schedule?
I mean, I think it's a tough start to the season, right? I mean,
Mhm.
last year we kind of got fortunate that we were able to somewhat ease into the beginning of the season. The Steelers lost aside, but we had teams like Houston and Washington and Miami, I believe, early in the season last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
This is a tough start, right? I mean, these are all honestly good teams. Would say what you will about Miami, but that game's not going to be easy. I know Josh owns the Dolphins, and I know the Bills have had really, really good luck against the Dolphins lately, but that's a tough start to the season.
Mhm.
Like I think like if you go 3-1 out of those first 4, like you've done really, really well, in my opinion. 2-2 wouldn't shock me, but like
Mhm.
3-1 out of that first 4 would be, in my opinion, a huge win. So I think
Yeah.
it's a very difficult
I
start.
I think you gotta go 3-1, especially when we're about to look at that second grouping of games. I think you gotta go 3-1 in this stretch. I'm looking at this stretch, and a couple of people, Colin Jordan on Twitter, one of the people who interacts with us a lot on Twitter. He made the comment, maybe the Buffalo Bills were waiting for the schedule release to make the decision on whether they wanted to add a veteran cornerback or not, with the question surrounding Trey White. If you look at this schedule, at LA, Matthew Stafford, at Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill, at Miami, Tua, but Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, Baltimore with Lamar and like Mark Andrews, like they don't have any receivers. I don't know if that schedule, like maybe we should be penciling in the Pittsburgh Steelers week 5 as maybe Trey's return. And then maybe the Bills don't go out and add another veteran cornerback, because really you look at it, the only real threat there is the only real threat there to me that I look at is the Rams, that are maybe a little bit the Dolphins. I wouldn't go and look for a veteran cornerback looking at if Trey White could be back by week 5, Pittsburgh, or even week 6, Kansas City, but you want to knock some rust off.
Yeah, I mean the Titans and Ravens, right, are the ones that like stand out as like they now that AJ Brown's gone, like yes, you know, not the most threatening wide receiver groups. And then Miami, I mean, what's Tua going to really be able to do? It's TBD on that. It's really week
Mhm.
1, right? With Cooper Cup is the one that you're kind of like, well, be nice to have Trey White for that game. But
Yeah.
I also think that
That's gonna be
that
Teron
game,
Johnson's responsibility, probably,
yeah,
in the
and that
slot.
game's gonna be that's gonna be a weird game anyway because it's the home opener. There's gonna be all this extra fanfare going on around it. home opener for the Rams and the NFL opener. So like missing Trey White in that game, it hurts obviously, but like I think the Bills I think the Bills can overcome that in that
Mhm.
game. And so that just really leaves Miami with Tyreek and Waddle, and that's going to come down to Tua. So yeah, you might be
Man.
onto something there, but
Silas,
it would
Silas
be
says
nice to have him back for week
Silas
one,
says
though.
Robert Woods is nothing to sneeze at. This is 30-plus-year-old Robert Woods coming off a torn ACL with Ryan Tannehill throwing him the football and no other legitimate weapons other than like Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips taking any pressure off of him. So I love and respect Robert Woods and everything he's done in his career. I think he's a great complementary receiver at this point in his career in the National Football League. But he's the dude in Tennessee right now. It doesn't scare me that much. So I don't mean to dismiss Robert Woods, but if I look at that depth chart, like it doesn't scare me because I feel like you could neutralize him with everything else that's sort of around him on that offense. Looking at the rest, looking at the second part of the schedule again, 4 games plus the bye week, so it's sort of a 5-game little span here. It's at home versus Pittsburgh, at Kansas City at 4:25 on CBS, a bye week, Sunday Night Football at home against the Packers, and then at the Jets. I like this for us, right? So it's Pittsburgh at home, then you have to go at Kansas City, but you have like a full week's rest. You have the bye week afterwards. You can just throw the kitchen sink at the Chiefs, get your bye week, prepare yourself for the Packers, and then you have to obviously travel to New York to face the Jets for the first time. But I like this a little bit for us. I really need us to go 3-1, 3-1. I really need us to be 6-2, 5-3 at the worst heading into the Week 10
Mhm.
game against the Vikings.
And I think you're spot on with that. 5-3 at the worst, 6-2 would be ideal. Because I mean, the reality is between the
Mhm.
Packers, Chiefs, Ravens, Rams, Titans, like if you lose 3 out of those first 8 games, but you come out of that stretch 5-3, like it's not the end of the world. It's really not. So um, I do like this little stretch here because, like you said, you get the nice bye week after you've had to pretty much probably
Mhm.
go all out against the Chiefs, but then you get to stay at home after the bye week, which I think is great, and you get to play on prime time, and then you have the Jets. So I like this stretch too. It's a good stretch of games too, right? You get some variety.
Mhm.
You get a primetime game in there against an NFC team. Obviously, you get the Chiefs. You get your redemption story with the Steelers, and then you start off your you know, your first kind of uh matchup against the new look
Mhm.
Jets with all the draft picks they just had. So I think this is it's a fun stretch of weeks here, but it's also another one where you really got to look at it and say we got to
Yeah.
go 3-1, or if you do go 3-1
Yeah.
in the first stretch, you got to go 2-2 at worst here.
So then we get our third stretch here, and this is where again it gets interesting. Minnesota at home at 1 p.m., Cleveland at home 1 p.m. Then it's sort of a mini gauntlet. I'm not going to say the opponents are gauntlets, but the schedule's gauntlet. 4-day
Mhm.
4-day week Lions, 4-day week at or 7-day short rest at Patriots after that 4-day week. To me, the Minnesota Vikings game is key and the Cleveland Browns game is key. Must wins. Must wins those 2
Mhm.
games. I'm not going to like say must wins, but essentially must win games just to sort of brace yourself or buffer yourself in case that murky at Lions, at Patriots doesn't go the right way because of the sort of weirdness of the schedule there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you're coming off of a high, as high as you can be from beating the Jets on the road in week 9, and then you get 2 home games in a row, right? And these home games are super important. You have one less home game this year. You've got the Vikings, who maybe some people will say that could be a trap game for the Bills, a home game for the Bills, playing against the Vikings. We remember uh, the game where the Bills went into Minnesota as huge underdogs and ended up beating the Vikings. So um, maybe a little redemption story for the Vikings there. So the Bills got to take care of business at home, and then the Browns, like what's going to be going on with Deshaun Watson at that point in the season, don't know. But again, it's a home game. It's against an AFC team that if a guy like Deshaun Watson's playing, you assume they're going to be in the mix for a playoff spot. So you got to win that game, and then even though you have to go on short rest on Thanksgiving against the Lions, you have to take care of business in at Ford Field in the dome. before you get to that Thursday New England game. So to me, this is a great opportunity stretch here for you to go 4-0. It's right there in front of you. Scheduling kind of concerns aside, like this is a stretch where I look at it and I go, like you should go 4-0 in this stretch.
Yeah. You should definitely go 4-0 in this stretch. And then the final stretch of the season, the last 5 games, to me, this is what wins you the AFC 1 seed, these last 5 weeks. Because I think the last 5 weeks here, you have a legitimate opportunity to run the table. You have a 1 p.m. game against the New York Jets. You have a TBD game against the Miami Dolphins at home. You're at the Bears. You're at the Bengals. And then it's New England at home to close the season. You have a chance in these last 5 games to run the table. And really, like, if you're neck and neck with some other teams in the AFC for that number 1 seed, and which could very well likely be with maybe some of the teams that we play earlier on the season, we might not have the greatest record that everyone imagines. This last 5 game stretch is where you really set yourself apart. You run the table there, those last 5 games, you secure yourself the 1 seed, you head into the playoffs with a nice little bye week and home field advantage. It's those last 5 games that I think is really going to dictate how our postseason goes.
I agree. And if you want to take any kind of silver lining to the way this schedule played out, and we talked about how that first stretch is tough, and then that second stretch, you've got Green Bay and Kansas City. Like weeks 10 through 18 is where you can really like recover, if you will, if you've kind of gone maybe 5-3, or like, God forbid, you go 4-4 those first 8 games. Like you legitimately could come through weeks 10 through 18 with maybe only 1 loss, right? And you look at it and you're like, the Bengals might be a tough game on the road Monday night. I'm not discounting that, but like the Bills are a more talented team than the Bengals, right? Like the Bills should be able to go in Cincinnati and take care of business. It just depends, right? Like that's going to be right now that you have to say that's a toss up game, I think. But you look at weeks 10 through 18, and if the Bills, like the Bills could go 8-1 in this stretch. And like you said, in this last 5, Jets at home, Dolphins at home, Patriots at home, you get that recovery from having to play those first 3 division games on the road. You get them all at home in this last stretch, and then at Chicago again. We mentioned it's a possible trap game, but that's a team that you are in a different class from right now. If you're the Bills, like you are in a totally different class than the Chicago Bears, and you have to go into that game and win. So I agree with you. I think this second half of the schedule seems, at least on paper, easier than the first half, and you can really either make up ground or solidify your ground in your standing in the AFC.
Yeah. To close things out here tonight, let's play a little game here, because some people are starting to throw some record predictions in the chat here. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm going to put the comment section on the spot here too. Over under 12.5 wins this season for the Buffalo Bills in the gauntlet that is the AFC. Over under 12.5 wins. What do you got in comment section? What do you got as well?
Oh, man. What were we last year? 11-6. What were we, like? What, I don't even remember what we were last year. 11-6 or 12-5, something like that. I'll say under, but I think it's 12. I think it's 12-5. Like just right now on May 12th, I'll say under just to be a little bit conservative, but I do think it's just barely under. I think it's 12-5 right now.
So you are not with the people as well, because John Karan comes in and says 13-4. JR says over. Michael Bell says over. Your boy says take the over. John Herring says yes. Spin says yes. Nathan Queen says the sorry, says the office is going to break records this year. James E says take the over. JR says 15-2 to 13-4. John Marlowe says yes. Chris S says take the over. John Van Reen says 13. Jonathan W comes in, says take the over.
Okay.
So
That's
a lot
okay.
of people
I'll be pleasantly disappointed
that
then.
over. And I'm gonna go with it's random cam as well. 12 is reasonable. I'm also going to be on the side of maybe the contrarian here. I'm gonna say 12-5 is give me my record prediction this year, because I think it is a tough schedule full of tough football teams, but we're also a good football team in our own right. So I'm going to take the under. I'm going to go with 12 wins, but I think that 12 wins could still be good enough to win you the AFC 1 seed, especially if you have a tiebreaker fight, like you beat the Chiefs, right? Or what's another team that could be up for it for the AFC title this year? The Chargers. We don't play the Chargers, but if the tiebreakers fall
Bengals, I
for you, yeah,
mean,
the Bengals. Like if
Titans could still be in the mix
mm,
potentially.
so if the tiebreakers fall for you the right way, I think the Bills could win the AFC, even with a 12-5 schedule. Someone came into the chat here and said Kansas City's first 7 games are pretty brutal as well. They're at Arizona. They have Los Angeles at home. They're at Indianapolis with Matt Ryan. That's a sleeper team. I'm glad I'm going to play them this year. At Tampa Bay
Ravens is another
versus
one. They could be
versus
back in the mix.
versus the Raiders. Bills at home at San Francisco. And then their bye week, their first 7 are brutal too. So this just goes back to the point. The Bills have a relatively, I don't want to say the Bills' first 7 games are brutal. The Bills' first 7 games are difficult. Kansas City's first 7 games are brutal. So you could find yourself mid-season, right around that week 10 mark that you were talking about, where both of these football teams, maybe their record isn't what people thought they would be. It's 5-3, it's 4-4. But those last 8 games is what is going to set you apart. It is where the number 1 seed in the AFC is going to separate itself. And the Buffalo Bills in the second half of their schedule have a lot of opportunities to stack wins. So I think the second half of the Bills schedule is going to be key. So don't lose your cool, Bills Mafia, if we don't get off to the hottest start in the world. As long as we stay steady up until, that bye week, right around that Packers game, I think we can go on a nice, decent run from there and secure that 1 seed in the AFC.
I mean, 12 wins winning the AFC would be surprising, I would say, to me, but not impossible. Not impossible given the gauntlet that is the AFC. And we didn't even mention the Ravens. A couple of people mentioned the Ravens. That's another team that could be on the rebound this year after struggling a bit through last year.
Honestly, Pittsburgh could be. Their defense is stacked in Pittsburgh, and they got Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. One of them could at least throw the ball more than 10 yards in the air.
True.
So they'll have a pulse on offense. They got a ton of receivers. They added George Pickens and Calvin Austin.
Yeah.
To that room. So, I mean, their lines are still a little weak. Their offensive line is still decently. I mean, I had James Daniels, so got a little bit better, but I believe they drafted a guy too. I'm blanking. It's been a week, but Pittsburgh could be hella back too. I think Cincinnati's going to fall back down to earth this season too. So that Monday Night Football game against the Cincinnati Bengals could be playing for their playoff lives. When we play the Cincinnati Bengals, the second to last. That might not be an AFC championship game or an AFC 1 seed type of showdown. That could be a Kansas City's holding on, or not Kansas City, Cincinnati's holding on for its dear life type of game there. So yeah, it's every single one of these games in some way, shape, or form is its own type of difficult. The Rams, good Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. Tennessee Titans, it's got Derrick Henry. They got a really good defense. Miami added Tyreek Hill to go along with a good defense. And Mike McDaniel, it looks like they're going to have a good running game, adding Teron Armstead and all those running backs. Baltimore might not have any receivers, but they got some hella good tight ends. They've loaded up that running back room, and they got a really good defense. Pittsburgh, really good defense. Quarterbacks that aren't going to puke all over themselves, and a lot of weapons. Kansas City is Kansas City. Green Bay, again, not a lot of wide receivers to speak of, but good running game with Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. You got Aaron Rodgers, and you got a relatively good defense there in Green Bay. Jets will probably be a little bit better. We got to beat the Jets twice this year. We got to. Minnesota, their starters are good. Their backups aren't that great. So by week 10, their depth could be pretty depleted there in Minnesota. Cleveland, I don't know what read to have on Cleveland right now. I got to see Deshaun Watson come back after a year off, whether he's playing or not. Detroit plays just super competitive football. Like the way they were playing for Dan Campbell last year when their season was over, and the fact they're going to be playing on a short week and Thanksgiving, like that team's going to come out and they're going to have better talent than they did last year, which isn't saying much. And they're going to be scrappy. New England is pretty much the same team last year, but they added some speed, which again, like it's not exactly like we walked over them in the regular season. We lost that first game, and that second game, it took us well into the third quarter to put them away and to pull away with that. Chicago is really the only team I look at on the schedule that we can absolutely shit kick. Like, they're bad. They're really bad.
They are.
Their offensive line, first of all, left to right, is deplorable. It looks like a
Lost James
USFL.
Daniels.
It looks like a USFL offensive line. And on top of that, it's going to be week 16. Half those guys are going to be hurt by then. I mentioned Cincinnati. They're a good football team, a ton of weapons, a ton of firepower. They've rebuilt that offensive line, but that division they're playing in is so tough. And I think they're going to be absolutely brutalized and beat down by the time we see them in week 17. And then obviously New England to close out the season. So literally, other than the Chicago Bears and then on paper, the Detroit Lions, maybe the New York Jets twice, like 4 games, like there are no walks like the Houston Texans or like the Atlanta Falcons on this schedule, right? Like there are no walks on this schedule.
Washington was a walk last year.
Washington, Tennessee might be a walk. Like who knows?
Vikings, maybe. I don't know.
Vikings might be, but like who knows? Like because, like I said, on paper there is some talent there. You just got to see sort of how it gels. Like how does Minnesota gel underneath their new coach? How does Tennessee? Tennessee will
brother rivalry game. Vikings.
Tennessee will look like a XFL team one week, and then look like an NFL, like the NFL's best team the next week. Like they're so hot and cold. They're so Jekyll and Hyde. So it's gonna be an experience this season, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be an absolute experience, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it with you. So we will be with you all season long. Obviously, I believe, how many more Thursday shows do we have? I haven't checked our schedule in a while. We got a couple of more Thursday shows coming up here on the Air Raid Hour, Monday and Thursday.
Looks like two
more.
Yeah. Yep, 2 more.
And then pretty much essentially when June starts, we're going to be switching just to Mondays. We'll be doing Monday shows. And then into training camp, we'll be doing Monday shows. And then once the regular season kicks off, it'll be Monday reacting to the game, and it will be pregame shows an hour and a half or so, 2 hours before every single game. So whether it's a Thursday afternoon, a Monday afternoon, a Sunday morning, a Saturday morning, you can wake up, you can drink your coffee and enjoy Thanksgiving morning and Christmas Eve morning with the Bills, not with the Bills guys, with the Air Raid Hour. We will be with you. Obviously, it's going to transition here in the next couple of weeks from Monday, Thursday to Mondays and pregame. So we look forward to all of that. It's going to be a fun ride. And Dave, any parting thoughts here before we head out?
No, I mean, like, look, some people don't care about the schedule release. Some do. I think it kind of centers around the primetime games now. It's cool to see, like, road trips and things like that. Obviously, this schedule release means more to Bills fans now that we are getting these primetime games. I don't think there's any secret about that, right? 6-7 years ago, it didn't matter as much to us. It really didn't. I mean, to like me and you, yeah, we like, and to a lot of people, like, we still cared, but like now it's about like how many primetime games will we get. It's not about like what will be our one primetime game. So for the people who don't care too much about the schedule release, that's cool. For the people that do, that's cool too. Whatever you like to do, this has been fun. I mean, we had a lot of people in here tonight with comments, so it's been good. It's been fun.
And this is the reason why the NFL just dominates every single other league, right? So you have the NFL regular season, which just blows up the ratings. It's the highest. Everyone wants NFL football live coverage because that's where the ratings are. So you see billions of dollars thrown at it. Then you have the NFL draft, which people go crazy for. Yep. You have the NFL schedule release. Like you see all those mock drafts leading up to the draft, and then you see the draft coverage do crazy ratings. Then you see the NFL schedule release, and everyone's looking like, what was that fake account that gained 10,000 followers overnight? And he just came out today and was like, all of those were lies. 10,000 people just
good for him for admitting it, though.
Stuff up. And then you know what we're going to see tomorrow when we head over onto Twitter? We're going to see NFL prediction season get underway. We're going to see,
yes, we will.
We're going to see Howard picks the Bills on WGR. We're going to see the inaugural one of the season. You're going to see everyone on Twitter picking the Bills tomorrow and over the next couple of days, and whoever other team that they root for, they'll be picking those teams. So it'll be super interesting. Andre Lob came in and said, who's going to be this year's Jaguars game? We already said it could be the Lions or the Bears. There's only 2 teams Jaguars caliber on the schedule, and you do have the Lions on a short 4-day week. but it should be super interesting. I can't wait to start talking about over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be breaking down all of our opponents, who's made what moves this season. You already have Nathan Q coming in, sort of ranking the AFC here, which is sort of a mental exercise that we'll be doing. I think our next show, we're going to be going in depth, talking about all the changes to the AFC East landscape. Then we'll be breaking down our opponents by division. So we got a bunch of great shows coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. 200 plus of you in here. Absolutely spectacular. If you could please smash that like on your way out. If you are listening on demand, smash the like. It still helps us. Leave a comment in the comment section, a question, a comment, a concern, some feedback, whatever it is. We'll make sure we try to respond to you in a timely fashion. It also helps us with the old algorithm as well. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, just make sure you're subscribing, maybe leaving a review if you can. We super appreciate. And share. The number one way to keep growing this thing here at the Air Raid Hour is by word of mouth. So if you have someone that you think would enjoy this show and enjoy hanging out with us on Mondays and Thursday nights and pre-games and all that jazz, make sure you're letting them know. Send them a text and let them know that they can come enjoy this Air Raid Hour experience with us. So thank you guys so much. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Are we having fun yet?